I know people are watching and listening right now, and they're like, there ain't no way I can do that. I mean, really, I mean, a lot of people, because even I'm thinking in my mind, because I'm in and it maybe it's just, we just got to figure out maybe different times or figure out different schedules, because in my type of business, a lot of times we're meeting with clients at 8 o'clock at night. Sometimes we're meeting at 6 o'clock at night, so you're not out until a certain amount, a certain time. So as long as it's 3 hours, 2 hours, and 1 hour before we go to bed, maybe we just got to adjust some of this stuff, because I think that especially entrepreneurs, because you're talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, and us, man, because you're an entrepreneur. I mean, sometimes our brains just don't shut off, man. I mean, sometimes and now with e-reading and stuff like that. I mean, if you don't have an actual book to read, of course you're going to read on your iPad, or you're going to read on your laptop, or you're going to read on your phone or something like that. And so, is there other, like, I mean, how do you address those people that say, that is like way too hard to be able to do something like that? Are there any other recommendations for us that you could think of?
So there's a ton, but I'm also going to challenge that way of thinking, because it goes back to what you said is, oh, I want the 6-pack abs. And then somebody tells you what you have to do. And it's like, oh, there's no way I'm doing that. You obviously don't want it that bad. Somebody says, hey, I want to get better sleep. I know the superpower that exists here. I know how I can be more mentally clear. I know how I can get more work done. I know I can get this stuff done. And then you say, hey, it's a 3-2-1 rule. It's pretty freaking easy. And someone's like, oh, there's no way I can do that. Hey, well, I guess you don't want it that bad, because all it really takes is putting a life by design. And if we look at our lives, and I say this often, show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities. If you looked at my calendar, and I'll be completely transparent, I've got 2 businesses that are multi-8-figure, and serving people all over the world, traveling probably 4 or 5 times a month. There's not one day that I don't miss my 3-2-1 rule, whether I'm going from New York to LA and I have to change time zones and I have a travel framework. It's all about being able to be consistent in what you're doing. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to bed at 6 o'clock when I go out to LA, but what it does mean is that I'm making a couple shifts in how I show up in my life and how the decisions I make and what I'm doing, because I'm choosing to be alert, awake, impactful, and have the life that I'm ultimately searching for on a day-to-day basis. But it only comes by being able to set boundaries. You talk about, I hear it all the time. There was an entrepreneur that runs a $500 million company, and he's like, I can't do this. I have meetings with some people at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, what are you doing having meetings at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night that you can't do during the day? And he gave me 5, 6, 7 different excuses. And after we worked through each one of the excuses, it was, well, I guess I just really haven't tried, or I haven't put things into place. I just haven't set boundaries. This is just kind of how things have ultimately ended up happening. And when we were able to now restructure things for him and set boundaries based off of priorities, based off of values, all of a sudden behaviors changed. All of a sudden he's sleeping every night at 11 o'clock. All of a sudden he's waking up and getting more done throughout the day. All of a sudden he's being more efficient. All of a sudden things that were bothering him before wouldn't bother him. All of a sudden his stress level that he didn't even know he was feeling is now going, man, I can't believe I operated a business like that for 7 years. I can't believe that. Imagine what it did to my health long-term. And the guy's operating at a higher frequency with greater impact, at a greater level of consistency than he ever thought possible, simply because he was able to adopt behaviors that he would have never thought about before, because he had his own mind blocks or his own boundary barriers to create this change in the first place.
And so when you look at people, because there's a lot of depression right now, in there's more drugs on the market than ever. What are your thoughts? I'm just curious. Why do you think so many people are depressed in our? Because to me, I think the world has never been better. I mean, I know there's challenges politically, and there's challenges, with different things in the world. But I'm saying from just a standpoint of, I mean, we got a lot of freedom. I mean, especially you're in Florida, man. You got a lot of freedom, right? We got freedom, we got choices, we got options. We can, we can be who we want to be. We can do what almost just about what we want to do. I mean, especially us in America. I mean, we're pretty darn free to do the things that we want to do. Why are more people on drugs more than ever? Why are more people more depressed now than ever? Why? It doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, it's an extremely loaded question. There's a whole bunch that plays into it, but when it comes to the drugs and the pharmaceutical industry and the doctors, and I've seen that space just explode over the last little bit. A lot of it comes down to money, and us as consumers, we're looking for a fast fix, something quick. Oh, you mean I don't have to actually work to change a behavior? You mean I don't have to actually do the deep work? I don't have to figure out why this feeling of inadequacy and this feeling of insecurity exists, and I can just take a pill and I can just kind of help me out of this? That is what I think sits at the base of a lot of this. Is we're looking for a fast change. We're looking for a fast fix. We don't want to do the deep-seated work that exists. We don't want to change habits and behaviors. I mean, even unsolicited, I saw it from you 5 minutes ago where you're like, there's no way I'm changing my sleep that way. And the fact that and when we come back to our sleep has such an impact on mental health. Our sleep has such an impact on how aware we are, how alert we are, how preserved we are. There's actually a mechanism in our brain that has certain receptors that don't allow it to absorb serotonin if we are under sleep deprivation. So if we're actually not absorbing serotonin from good things that are happening in our life, to the sunshine that exists, to all of these other things, it's going to cause a lot of issues for us because we're not getting the serotonin and dopamine jolts that we need. And the only place we get them is from our phone or from these other forms of mechanism, be it drugs, be it alcohol, be it porn, be it like all of these other things that exist in our world, which ultimately cause all of these other addictions that are happening, because that's the only time that we feel quote unquote normal. And so you show me a kid at 8, 9, 10, 11 years old that is addicted to video games, and he's playing those games because that's what makes him feel normal. Show me that kid. I'll show you somebody who in the future will be a future addict. And these are the things that we are ultimately exposing ourselves to in this world, that we have to start creating change. That's why I come back to habits and behaviors. The sun will do wonders. Getting your feet on the bare ground will do wonders. Getting activity during the day will do wonders. Going through an intentional breathing exercise 3 to 5 minutes a day will do wonders. Getting a good night's sleep at night will do wonders. Eating good food will do wonders. You start operating that way, you start getting really grounded in your actions and behaviors and consistent with these things that mean something to you, not just random things that are pulled out of that people say, quote unquote, are good for you, but rather things that, no, this means something to me because it's tied to my values. It's tied to my beliefs. It's tied to my priorities. It's aligned with where I'm trying to go and the mission that I'm on. That is going to give you the staying power to be consistent, to realize the results that you're ultimately looking for.
So a couple of last thoughts here as we kind of wind down. I mean, this is powerful stuff. I mean, there's no question about it. The reason why you've had the success that you have had is because you are one of the most disciplined dudes I've ever met in my life. One of the most consistent guys that I've ever met in my life. And I don't think what you're saying is that difficult to do. I mean, I think that the reason why most people fail in life and business is just simply because of their consistent habits. I mean, consistencies, in my opinion, it's everything. I mean, consistent accountability, consistent actions. I mean, this is all what played a role in helping me build my company. So there's no question you're right on. And I think that, as we kind of close out, I want you to, I mean, for those entrepreneurs that want to take their lives to that next level, I mean, because I know you're pretty faith based, man, and you know you have yourself deeply rooted into faith, and how has that played a role in your life, and how important is that to you?
It's to me, it's everything. I've seen life when I've been very disconnected, and I've seen life when I've been extremely connected. And there's, I said this the other day. I said, I don't know how I lived with the amount of anxiety, the amount of frustration, the amount of impatience I did when I was so disconnected from God and so disconnected from my calling. And I wasn't able to hear his voice. I wasn't able to hear his guidance. I wasn't able to see the little breadcrumbs that he put in front of me, leading me on my path along the way, and feeling like I had to do it all myself, feeling like it was all on my shoulders, feeling like I had to make every decision and I had to put myself in this way. How was I going to pay my bills? How was I going to fulfill my calling? How was I going to get from A to B? I had to figure it out, when in actuality, it never had anything to do with me. It never had anything to do with what I wanted to do. It had everything to do with getting reacclimated and adjusting my dial to connect me back into what God was asking me to do, getting cued back into where he was calling me, where he was guiding me, taking the directions. And if I made a wrong choice, that's okay, because I'm going to be redirected anyways. He's always taking whatever outcomes and turning them out for the best. Everything will always be turned out and be made for good, even though you may think you're in a valley. You have to go through the valley in order to realize the miracle. If we never went into any valleys, what good would a miracle do? Because you don't need one. And so I think that was coming back to your question, is faith. And let me be very honest here and very, very direct. It's not religion we're after. Religion is like when you're driving a car. And I don't know how many of your listeners have wrecked a car in their lifetime, but when you're driving a car as a young boy, maybe or a young woman, and you had your first vehicle and you got in an accident, you're like, oh man, I've got to call my dad. He's going to be so angry. He's going to be so mad. He's going to yell at me. He's going to just get all upset. That's religion. Relationship with God, relationship is like when you do the same thing and you wreck your car and you're like, man, I got to call my dad. My dad will know what to do. My dad's going to help me. My dad's going to comfort me. My dad's going to put me on the next path. He's going to know exactly what to do, and he's going to help me fix this. That's relationship. And that's what I've been able to find. And that's what has just been able to be so deeply rooted, is this deep faith in knowing that the direction that you're on, and listening to dad, listening to your father who created you for greatness, created you to be world-class at something, is just wanting you to pursue him and pursue what that purpose and mission is, so that you can ultimately realize that and unfold it to the world, because your calling and your mission is somebody else's miracle.
If you like this video and you want to watch another one, click right here. If you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.